What happens when a sharp-tongued late-night provocateur invites a fiercely composed conservative onto his stage, expecting her to crumble under sarcasm and sound bites? What if instead she rewrites the tone of the entire night? This isn't just political theater. It's a reckoning in real time. The studio lights dimmed slightly as the countdown hit zero. Bill Maher shuffled his cue cards and smirked at the audience, his signature cocktail already sweating in his hand. The HBO studio, cool, calculated, always smug, buzzed with anticipation. "All right," Mayer said, "let's bring on someone who will either make your blood boil or your spine straighten, depending on how many Fox News alerts you've got turned on." A ripple of laughter. "She's the former Attorney General of Florida, a Trump ally, and let's be honest, she's not exactly a fan of me. Please welcome Pam Bondi." Polite applause gave way to murmurs as Pam entered, calm, poised, her navy suit tailored to command attention without demanding it. She greeted Maher with a firm handshake and a faint smile, neither forced nor submissive. Bill gestured to her seat. "Let's get this over with," he joked. Bondi chuckled. "Don't worry, Bill. I came to finish what you started." Audience tensed. So did the air. Maher leaned back, one eyebrow cocked. "You know I'm not exactly known for playing nice with your side. You're not exactly known for playing fair either," Bondi replied. "But I'm here, so let's have the conversation." The first strike came quickly. "So Pam," Mayer began, "do you genuinely believe the 2020 election was the most secure in American history, or are you still shopping for bamboo ballots?" Laughter. Bondi didn't flinch. "I believe questioning elections isn't a crime unless you're on the wrong team," she said. Democrats questioned 2016. Hillary called it stolen. Stacey Abrams never conceded. But when conservatives raise concerns, it's suddenly a threat to democracy. Mayer raised a finger. "But those were rhetorical protests. Your side stormed the Capitol." "My side," Bondi echoed. "Last I checked, I didn't break any windows. And I certainly didn't torch cities in 2020 either. Violence is violence. If we only condemn it when it's politically convenient, we're hypocrites, not leaders." Silence. Not applause, not laughter. Just pause. Maher shifted. He wasn't rattled, but he wasn't relaxed either. "You're good," he said. "I'm prepared," she corrected. "Can snark survive when it collides with sharp logic? What happens when a punchline fails to land and is met with truth instead of tears?" Tonight, sarcasm has a challenger, and her name is Pam Bondi. Bill Maher flipped a cue card as if to regroup. "Let's shift gears. Abortion. You support bans with little exception. That's bold in 2025. Bondi met his gaze, her posture unwavering. "It's called protecting life, and boldness isn't a crime. A human heartbeat is not a suggestion. It's a signal. One we're choosing to ignore because it's inconvenient." The audience rustled. Maher's smile tightened. "You want to regulate women's bodies," he fired. "No," Bondi countered. "I want to ask whether the fetus is a body too. You can't champion science one day and ignore biology the next." There was a pause, a longer one. Maher broke it with a sarcastic grin. "So what? We just hand every embryo a passport?" Bondi smiled. "Only if they're crossing into California." The audience gasped, then laughed. Not at her, with her. She continued, "You asked about bans. I believe states should lead. That's what democracy looks like. Messy, localized, and representative." Bill raised a hand. "Unless it's Florida, where your team gerrymanders democracy into a red cage." Pam nodded slowly. "In blue states are paragons of virtue?" "Bill, gerrymandering is a bipartisan sport. Don't act like only one team's got the map." He leaned forward. "So what's the answer?" "Accountability," she replied. "But that requires honesty, not just on redistricting, but media, justice, education. You joke for a living. I fought cartels, sued Big Pharma, stood before the Supreme Court. I don't need applause. I need results." Mayer quieted, then changed tactics. "Let's talk Trump." There it was. "Still your guy?" he asked. "I don't worship politicians," she answered, "but I respect results. Border security, Economic growth, energy independence, peace agreements. That matters more to me than mean tweets. Bill's voice sharpened. Even with indictments. With what we've seen? You mean investigations led by partisans? Narratives shaped by leaks? We've criminalized politics in this country, and the only consistent thing is that the accused must be a Republican. You're defending him. I'm defending due process. You mock what scares you. I fight for what matters. Audience murmurs. The energy is different now. Maher sighed. Right, religion. You're one of those, right? Cross necklace, Sunday voter, all that jazz. Bondi clasped her hands. I believe in God. I believe in accountability that transcends government. I don't force that belief on anyone, but I won't be mocked for it either. Bill lifted his glass. To conviction, then, she smiled, and to consistency. You should try it. What happens when a late-night studio built for mockery becomes the site of a moment no one saw coming? When conviction outweighs charisma, and the punchline falls silent, get ready. The final act doesn't just land, it echoes. The lights overhead felt warmer now, less performative, more revealing. Bill Maher leaned forward, clasping his hands in front of him as if recalibrating. Pam, he began, quieter now. You're one of the few conservatives who walks onto stages like this. Why? Bondi didn't hesitate. Because these rooms matter. You reach people who'd never watch a conservative town hall. And if I want truth to travel, I have to walk into places it hasn't yet reached. The audience sat straighter. Maher tilted his head, surprised by the sincerity. But isn't it exhausting, he asked, and fighting every room, every narrative? She gave the faintest smile. Freedom isn't free, Bill, and neither is clarity. The easiest thing in the world is to be liked. The hardest is to be principled, especially when it costs you applause. The studio fell silent. Maher shifted in his seat. Look, I don't agree with you on most things, but I'll say this, you don't flinch, and that's rare. Pam nodded. I don't come here expecting agreement. I come for honesty, and tonight you gave me that. Maher set down his cue cards. No punchline, just a pause. You know, I mock both sides because I think they both deserve it. But I respect anyone who shows up prepared to defend what they believe, without spin. Bondi leaned forward. Then we're not as different as you think. I don't fear disagreement. I fear a country where we stop having the conversation. A beat passed. Then Maher turned to the camera. Ladies and gentlemen, Pam Bondi. Applause rose, not roaring, not forced, measured, thoughtful. Clips of the segment exploded online. Commentators across the aisle, left and right, took notice. Pam Bondi walked into the lion's den, one commentator said, and didn't just survive. She redefined the tone of the evening. Even liberal pundits acknowledged it. She hadn't come to attack, but to stand firm. And she had. TikTok loops replayed the moment she said, I don't need applause, I need results. Young women posted, I may not agree with her politics, but I want that kind of courage. And in a rare follow-up, Bill Maher mentioned her in his closing monologue the following week. She made me think, he said simply, and that's more than most guests do. It didn't stop there. The interview was clipped into educational reels, reaction videos, and podcast debates. It was quoted on Senate floors. Political strategists on both sides took note. One progressive strategist remarked, if more conservatives spoke like Pam Bondi, clear, composed, unshakable, we'd have a real ideological war, not just noise. Bondi later posted on her social media, respect isn't granted, it's earned, especially in rooms where no one wants to give it. The post was shared by moderates, libertarians, even skeptical liberals. By week's end, the episode ranked among Maher's most rewatched segments of the year. For Bondi, it wasn't about trending, it was about momentum, and the ripple effects were only beginning. What defines strength today? Loud opinions, or the quiet courage to stand where you're unwelcome, speak when it's uncomfortable, and stay firm when you're outnumbered? Pam Bondi didn't just speak her truth, she earned her place in the room. If that kind of resolve matters to you, share this story, because sometimes the most powerful moment on television is the one without a laugh track.